When I was 16, my family brought me on a camping trip, then abandoned me in the forest. While returning to the campsite with a load of firewood, I overheard my father say, "If he wants to survive, he'll figure it out." An hour later, I watched them drive away without a second glance. I wandered aimlessly, hungry and disoriented for days, until I finally located help. I didn't see them again until last month, 6 years later, when my mother appeared at my workplace, crying. So here's a lengthy tale, and I wasn't even sure if I'd share it, but here it is. I've recounted it to a few people in real life, and most either found it hard to believe or reacted awkwardly. Maybe strangers online will understand better. This was when I was 16, so 6 years ago. I'm 22 now. I wasn't some wild child, just your typical annoying teenager. My dad, Clarence, has always been the type who believes toughness is paramount. He'd say I was soft if I didn't want to play football with an injured finger or something similar. My mum, Marion, just goes along with it. My little sister Claire was around 12, not really engaged, always glued to her phone. The odd behavior began even before we left for this trip. My dad kept making remarks like, "It's time for you to learn how to be a man." This wasn't the first time he'd said it, but it felt especially pointed this time. During breakfast, he looked at me and said, "Hope you're ready to step out of your comfort zone." I rolled my eyes because that was just typical for him. My mum barely spoke, just kept packing trail mix into small cereal boxes. We drove for about 2 hours to a state forest, not a fancy campsite, just a simple area with a fire ring, a couple of picnic tables, and one of those outhouses that always stinks. The drive was mostly quiet, aside from Claire's TikTok videos, blaring from her phone. I attempted to spark a conversation, but my dad just stared at the road, and my mum was engrossed in Sudoku on her phone. It felt more awkward than usual. Upon arriving, we unloaded and set up the tent. Dad was especially bossy, insisting I wasn't pulling my weight, even though I was literally carrying the cooler. He kept reminiscing about when he was a kid, and I just tuned him out. When we finally got a fire going, Claire was back on her phone, Mom was reading, and Dad was giving me this intense look like he was waiting for me to mess up. It was just an odd atmosphere. The next morning, Dad woke me up early and told me we needed more firewood. He handed me a rusty old hatchet and instructed me to go past the trail to find some proper wood, not the stuff near the campsite. Half asleep, I went anyway, and I was gone for about 40 minutes. I had no service, just wandering around searching for dry branches. When I returned, I heard voices and instinctively stopped behind a cluster of trees. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard my name. Dad said, "If he wants to survive, he'll figure it out," and Mum quietly asked, "Are you sure this is the right way?" Dad replied, "This is how my father raised me. He'll thank us one day." Claire said something I couldn't hear, her tone flat and disinterested. I stood there, frozen, thinking, is this some kind of joke? When I stepped out, they all looked at me, caught off guard. Mum turned away, Dad shrugged, and Claire wouldn't even look me in the eye. I dropped the firewood and asked what was happening, and Dad just said, "You'll be fine. You're a man now. Figure it out." Then he started taking down the tent. At first, I thought he was joking, so I tried to grab my bag, but he shoved me back, not hard, just enough to make his point. Mum attempted to say something, but Dad snapped at her to get in the car. I stood there as they packed up, and Claire tossed my hoodie at me without a word. Mom tried handing me an old granola bar, but Dad yelled at her to get in the car. She dropped it on the ground. I picked up the granola bar, and Dad slammed the trunk shut. I told him, "You can't just leave me here," to which he replied, "You'll understand when you're older." Then he got in the car. Mom was crying. Claire had her earbuds in, and they drove away. I stood there for a long time, thinking they would return. This had to be a prank, but they didn't come back. I tried calling them, but I left my charger in the car and my phone was nearly dead. I checked again, but there were no bars. I rummaged through my pockets. I had about 12 ols, a lighter, my phone, the hatchet, and the granola bar. I walked back, up the trail, hoping they were just around the corner, but the parking lot was empty. A strange feeling washed over me. I wasn't even angry yet, just bewildered. I sat there for a while, hoping they would return, but nothing happened. I tried to find my way back to the campsite, but I got turned around. All the trees looked alike. I wasn't a scout and didn't hike. The sun began to set, and I got cold, so I found a spot and attempted to sleep. Every little sound startled me, but I was more irritated than scared, thinking, really? This is their idea of fixing me. The next day, I tried following the trail markers, but they just circled back. I rationed the granola bar, but it was gone. By the second day, I shouted for help a few times, but no one responded. I drank from a stream, probably not the smartest choice, but at that point, I felt desperate. I tried not to sleep much because I kept hearing things. After a few days, I was hungry, exhausted, and furious. I kept thinking about what Dad said, how his father did this to him. He always talked about tough love, but this felt more like he wanted to get rid of me for a while. Eventually, I spotted some hikers, and they stared at me like I was a wild animal. One of them offered me water and asked if I was all right. I told them my family abandoned me, and they looked at each other as if to say, "Is this kid serious?" They escorted me back to the trailhead, where I sat as they tried to call someone. I provided them my parents' number, but there was no answer. I ended up with some park rangers who contacted my aunt Aurora. She picked me up, barely spoke, just drove me to her house, made me a sandwich, and told me to sleep on the couch. The next day, she informed me that my parents were taking some time apart and suggested I stay with her for a while. I asked if they had even tried to contact me. She shrugged and said they needed space, and I should reflect on what I did to push them so far. That honestly angered me more than anything. I attempted to call again, but there was still no response. After a week at her place, I stopped trying. I didn't see or hear from them again for 6 years. I moved out at 18, started my own life, and blocked them everywhere. Occasionally, I'd receive a meme from Claire on Instagram, but nothing substantial. I figured I was done with them. If they didn't want me, I didn't need them. Then, last month, my mum appeared at my workplace, looking older, weary, and crying. I hadn't seen her face in 6 years, and didn't even recognize her at first. That's how the first part ends. If you're curious about what happened when she showed up, I'll share more. But that's how my family left me in the woods. No apology, no call, just gone. Update 1. Alright, here's part 2. As I mentioned, my mum showed up at my work unexpectedly after 6 years. Honestly, it was so random I thought I was imagining it. I don't even live in the same town anymore. I moved far away after high school, blocking everyone and changing my number, so her finding me wasn't a coincidence. She had to have asked around. She looked rough, like she hadn't slept, and stood there at the front as if unsure of what to say. I approached her, and before I could speak, she started crying. Not cute tears, just messy, gasping for breath, sobs. She grabbed my arm, and I instinctively pulled away. I didn't want her touching me with people watching. I told her we should step outside, and she followed, still sobbing. I'll admit, that made me angry. After all this time, she shows up and expects me to welcome her. Nah. Outside, she tried to speak, wiping her face with her sleeve, saying she was sorry, that she'd been trying to find me, that she missed me, all that. I just stood there and told her to get to the point because I had to return inside. She flinched and began rambling about how everything spiraled after I left, how Claire hardly talked to her, how Clarence wasn't the same, and how she just wanted to see me and know I was okay. She apologized, saying she never intended for things to go that way, that it was never meant to be so severe. Clarence just wanted to teach me a lesson. He thought I'd toughen up, that I'd come back after a few hours and prove I could take care of myself. I interrupted her, expressing my lack of interest in her excuses. She tried to grab my arm again, and I pushed her back. Not roughly, but enough for her to stumble. She looked at me as if I had struck her. She attempted to explain that she didn't have a choice, that Clarence wouldn't listen, that she wanted, to return for me, but he wouldn't allow it. I asked her why she hadn't called the police, or at least my aunt, or anyone. She fell silent, staring at the sidewalk, and admitted she was scared of him. That infuriated me more than anything because she always acted like she was on my side growing up, but whenever Clarence behaved like that, she just went along with it. I said, "You let him leave me there. You never called. You never even tried." She began crying again, saying she was so young and didn't know what to do. I stood there with my arms crossed, indifferent. People were passing by, some giving us odd looks, but I didn't care. Then she started talking about how everything went wrong right after, how Clarence became increasingly mean, how Claire started sneaking out, how the family fell apart. She mentioned losing her job, moving into a smaller place, and how Clarence began drinking more and getting into fights with neighbors. She claimed she tried to reach out to me, but my aunt wouldn't give her my information. I knew that was a lie. Aurora barely communicated with me after I left, just sending the occasional Facebook message. I called her out on it, and she shrugged, saying maybe she misremembered. I asked her what she wanted from me. She straightforwardly said she just wanted to know I was okay, wanted to talk, maybe grab coffee, and try to reconnect. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I asked if she thought she deserved that after what she did. She started crying again, admitting she knew she didn't deserve it but wanted to try. I asked her why Clarence disliked me so much, why he did that. She said he always believed I was weak and that I didn't have what it took, that he feared I'd turn out soft and become one of those loser kids. She mentioned that Clarence's father treated him similarly, leaving him in places and making him find his own way home, claiming Clarence always lamented that boys today didn't know true struggle. I replied, "That's not an excuse. That's just being a jerk." She acknowledged that and expressed her wish she had done things differently, but admitted she didn't know how. I told her I didn't care, that I wasn't interested in a family reunion, and I didn't need her. I had managed without them. She attempted to say she was proud of me for surviving and thought about me every day, but I told her that wasn't my problem. When she tried to take my hand, I pulled away, and she started sobbing louder. A security guard approached and asked if everything was all right. I replied, "Yeah, we're done here," and walked back inside. She waited outside for about an hour, sending me numerous texts, long paragraphs pleading, "Please talk to me. I'm begging you. I need you in my life." I blocked her number. The next day, I received a DM from Claire that read, "Mom's a mess. What did you say to her?" I didn't respond. Then my phone blew up, but not from her. It was old friends, a few cousins, even my ex, all reaching out to say, "Hey, your mum called me. She's looking for you. What's going on? Is everything all right?" She was literally trying to contact everyone she could find. Even my boss received an email asking him to please tell me to call my mum. At this point, I was furious and felt like I could break something. I texted her from a burner account, warning her that if she didn't stop, I would file a harassment complaint. She claimed she just wanted to talk, stating she had something important to tell me, but wouldn't reveal what it was. I told her to leave me alone or I'd cut off all contact with the family permanently. She agreed but hoped I would reconsider. I wasn't planning to. This was just the beginning. Update 2. So here's part 3. If you're still reading, you might be wondering why I didn't just block my mum and move on. I tried, honestly. But after she started calling random people about me and attempting to guilt trip everyone into making me talk to her, I got fed up. I wanted to disappear, build my own life, keep my head down, and avoid any involvement with them. But she started dragging me back in, and that wasn't happening. I decided that if she was going to act this way, I wouldn't sit idly by. I would make them regret how they treated me. I know that sounds harsh, but if you experienced it, you'd understand. The first thing I did was dig into their lives. I'm not a hacker, but a lot can be uncovered if you know where to look. I began with Facebook and found Claire's account. She still posts everything, including those Ask Me Anything stories like it's 2016. Then I checked out my dad's page and noticed his posts shifted from boasting about vacations and his new truck to sharing angry memes about kids today not wanting to work and reminiscing about the good old days. Not surprisingly, I discovered he was tagged in several local business pages and found some reviews and arguments in the comments. I googled his name and found out he owns a small business. Not anything grand, but it was his. He always claimed to be his own boss, so I started observing. It took a few weeks, but I noticed people arguing with him in the comments and complaining about how he conducts business. I came across a few reviews mentioning he was rude and wouldn't honor warranties, blaming customers for being careless. I didn't reveal my real name. I just posed as someone thinking of using his business. Most people ignored me, but a couple responded. One mentioned that Clarence was rude and wouldn't honor a warranty, while another said he tried to upsell her on unnecessary items. I left an honest review, nothing too wild, just stating, I had a bad experience, the staff was rude, I wouldn't recommend. I also posted in a local Facebook group asking if anyone else had issues, and people began chiming in. I didn't fabricate anything. I just nudged the story along and hinted at how the owner once left his own child stranded in the woods. That sparked a lot of conversations. Some claimed I was lying, but others started asking questions. The best part was that Clarence couldn't resist jumping into the comments, getting defensive and yelling at people online. One night, he got into a full-on argument with someone in the group and then posted a rant about cancel culture and entitled, Kids. Subsequently, people began avoiding his business. I received a message from someone who used to work for Clarence and quit because Clarence yelled at him for being 5 minutes late. While this unfolded, I checked on my mother. She was living with Aurora, which made sense since she always turned to her when things got tough. Aurora had her own issues. She didn't have much money and was caring for her own kids. I heard from Claire, who sent me a meme, but I ignored it. Mom was incredibly depressed and rarely left the house, which I didn't care about. Mom started emailing me from new accounts, begging me to stop, saying Clarence was blaming her for everything, that he was losing money, and that she was scared he'd snap. I didn't respond. I began sharing the real story, not just about the business, but what he did to me. I told my side to anyone who would listen, regardless of whether they believed me or not. I sent Clarence a plain letter detailing everything he did to me, how I survived, how I built a life without him, and how I wouldn't let him forget it. I made it clear I was ensuring people knew who he truly was. I knew he got the message because a week later, I received a text from an unknown number that simply said, "You're a liar and a coward. You'll never be a real man." I blocked the number. I started receiving messages from more family, cousins, and distant relatives, some of whom were angry, claiming I was ruining the family name and that I should just let it go. I told them if they wanted to fight, I was ready. I didn't back down. One uncle called me, yelling about how I was stirring up drama and should respect my elders. I hung up on him. Aurora attempted to support me for a brief moment, but then claimed she couldn't get involved because she needed my mother's help with rent. Meanwhile, Clarence's business continued to decline. I kept monitoring the situation, seeing posts in the local group about him yelling at a customer and how the police were called, but nothing substantial happened, just a warning. I learned he slammed the door on someone, and they threatened to sue, but it didn't go anywhere. Even Claire texted me, saying Dad was losing it and blaming everyone else. I suggested she should consider moving out, and she replied, "Yeah, maybe." Some people might say I went too far, but honestly, if you knew what it felt like to be abandoned in the woods by your own family, you'd understand. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm just speaking the truth and ensuring everyone knows what kind of people they are. If they want to play games, I can play too. The last thing that happened was I received a message from an elderly man who knew Clarence when he was younger. He mentioned that he heard about what happened and that it mirrored how Clarence's father treated him. I replied, "Doesn't make it right," to which he agreed, then advised me to take care of myself. I didn't respond. So that's the situation. Clarence is losing business. Mom is essentially a ghost, and the family is divided. I'm not finished yet, but it's a start. I don't care if they despise me for it. I won't let them get away with it. I'm not sure if that makes me the villain, but whatever. Final update. Here's part 4. If you've kept up with this, thank you. I didn't expect this to gain so much attention. Writing all this is strange, but people wanted to know the end, so here's how it went down. It's been about 2 months since I started really pushing back. Not just blocking my mum, but making sure everyone knew what kind of people Clarence and Marion were. I figured it would just anger them. Maybe they'd move or stop trying, but no. Clarence is the type who can't let anything go, who can't allow anyone else to win. Probably a trait he inherited from his father. The first odd thing was when Claire texted me out of the blue, saying, "Hey, Dad's been acting strange. You should call him." I ignored her. I wasn't about to get dragged back in just because she felt uncomfortable at the dinner table. Then, Aurora called, something she never does, leaving a voicemail saying, "You should talk to your dad. He's not doing well." I deleted it and moved on with my day. I felt a bit bad for Claire, but she was there too. She could have spoken up all those years ago. The following week, my phone exploded, but not from family. It was people from my old town, even some acquaintances, sending DMs like, "Hey man, did you hear your dad's business is shutting down?" A few more texts came in with the same message. I checked the Facebook group, and indeed, people were posting about it, calling him a jerk and saying good riddance. A few defended him, claiming he just had bad luck, while others insisted he brought this upon himself. I spotted a post from Clarence where he attempted to defend himself, but no one was buying it. Then I received a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Eventually, I listened to the voicemail out of curiosity. It was Clarence, and he was crying, not just a little, but genuinely sobbing. He tried to sound tough, but his voice broke as he said, "I'm sorry. I know I did wrong. I don't know how to fix it. I've lost everything. I just wanted you to be strong. I didn't want you to end up like me. I'm sorry. Please call me." I'm back. After that, silence. I replayed the message, trying to grasp it. Clarence, who never cried or apologized, was breaking down on my voicemail. Honestly, I just sat there, staring at the wall, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to call him back and yell, but I didn't. I deleted the voicemail and blocked the number. After that, everything seemed to collapse for them. Aurora texted me a few days later, saying Marion moved out, took Claire, and Clarence was living with a friend, barely getting by. She urged me to talk to my mum, saying she was a mess and kept asking about me. I told her I was done. I had already survived once, and they had made their choice. Aurora said I was being cruel and tearing the family apart, but I left her message unread. For about a week, my phone kept buzzing with random numbers, including some without caller ID, but I didn't answer any of them. Claire sent me a message saying, "You really ruined everything." I replied, "You know what he did to me." She left me on read. I learned from a cousin that Clarence was trying to find work anywhere he could, but no one wanted to deal with him. People were talking. Marion was apparently couch surfing, and Aurora was annoyed but didn't kick her out. Last I heard, Claire was trying to move out and live with a friend. The entire family was in disarray. I received some angry messages from distant relatives saying, "You should be ashamed. That's your family. Blood is blood." I blocked them. I wasn't interested in playing nice just because we shared DNA. I won't claim I felt nothing. That would be a lie. It's strange to see people who always acted untouchable now struggling publicly. I don't feel good about it, but I don't feel bad either. I just feel like I did what I had to do. People say revenge doesn't help, but honestly, sometimes it just means you can finally look them in the eye and know they can't hurt you anymore. Now it's quiet. I have no family left, but I have friends in my own life. I don't have to answer to anyone. Sometimes I wonder if they'll try again, if Clarence will show up at my door, or if Marion will write me a letter begging for forgiveness. It doesn't matter. I'm not changing my mind, and I'm not letting them back in. They had their chance, and they blew it. If there's a lesson in all this, It's that some people won't apologize until they lose everything, and even then, it's not really about you, it's about them. I'm not here to fix them or carry their burdens. I just wanted them to experience even a fraction of what they put me through, and now they do. The last thing I kept was that old hatchet from the woods. I never told anyone about it. Sometimes I see it in my closet and just laugh. I guess I learned how to survive after all.